I'm Dr. Ryan DeBell from The Movement Fix. This is Movement Fix Monday. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Hey, before we get started, make sure to go to themovementfix.com/workshops to see our schedule of workshops this year. Okay, let's get into it. This week, what we're going to talk about is pain on the front of the knee during lunges. Many times, these videos are inspired by my patients that come and see me for problems. And I've been seeing a lot of anterior knee pain or pain on the front of the knee with lunging. So I want to go over a few considerations for people who have knee pain while they lunge. Now, this is not a video on how to treat your pain. It's things to think about, things to experiment with. But if you have pain, you should always consult somebody. So here's what I'm thinking. When I see somebody lunge and they have a complaint on pain on the front of the knee, I have to consider a couple things. Number one, I have to consider sort of the distribution of how much of their hip and glute muscles are they using to push in and out of the lunge versus how much are they going into their quad and loading up the front of the knee. So a lot of times when somebody does lunging and they have pain in the front of the knee, you can make this observation. They'll go down into the lunge and their knee will go so far forward, and when they push out, they're primarily pushing with their quad to push themselves straight back out of the lunge. And each rep during that pushing motion, they have pain. So one of the things I'll do to experiment, if we change the way the knee is loaded, if we change the angle of the shin, does that change their discomfort? Can I get them to lunge pain-free? Is I'll have them start by just doing a reverse lunge. So if you notice in a reverse lunge, the shin is pretty much vertical versus if you do the lunge where you step forward, a lot of times they can't control their tibia basically going into this angle where they start to change the loading on the front of the knee. So if they can go here and then drive up, and that's relatively pain-free, then I know if I change the way that they lunge, I can change how they feel in their knee. Now, that doesn't always solve all the problems because you should be able to lunge forward, come down, and come back up without pain. So what I have to look at for that athlete then is what if I put them into more of a split stance like this, and I teach them how to lunge down, keeping a vertical shin, and then come back up. Can they do that without pain, yes or no? So what I can train them to do is how to control the knee and the translation of the knee forward in a forward stepping lunge. So instead of going here and riding into this knee, can they step forward and then descend and think about driving with their butt to come up out of the lunge versus driving with their quad so that they're pushing from here. There's a couple ways that the knee can straighten. The knee can straighten by the quads going like this and straighten the knee. But when you're in a closed chain exercise, like a lunge on the front leg, you have friction of the floor on the front foot, and you have the glute driving the hip into extension. And what that does is it makes the knee automatically straighten without a lot of quad compared to pushing with your quad, because the friction plus the hip will make the knee change position. So for the athlete that has pain on the front of the knee, you have to consider maybe you have to just do back-stepping lunges for a while. Maybe you need to do a split lunge. Maybe you just need to think about, what am I doing with my knee? Am I keeping my shin a little bit more straight and controlled? Now, what I'm not saying is that it's bad for the knee to go forward. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if someone has pain in the front of the knee with lunging, it's one of the things that you have to consider. It's not every answer, but it is something to consider. Now, there's a second type of knee pain in the front that people have with lunges. And that's when they have pain on the front of the knee when it's their back leg. So they would be here, they step forward, and they come up and they go, oh, that hurts my knee. And I say, which knee? And they're like, it was the back leg knee. What I think about and a consideration in that case is, how much are they pushing out of the back leg? You know, the quads and all the hip flexors are under stretch when this is the back leg. And one thing that I have found with people is that they push really hard with the back leg in the lunge. So if you could imagine that there's a scale underneath my feet and they go into this lunge, they're pushing a lot with their back leg, like they're straightening and pushing their toe into the ground is one of the things driving them up. So what I'll do in that case is I like to change things easily if I can change them easily. I'll just have them think about push out of your front leg and relax your back leg. That's one way to get people to do it. Another way is this. Again, if we revert back to that back-stepping lunge, what if they go back into this lunge and they keep all of their, or like 90% of their weight in this front leg and then drive back up so that you can get them to not engage the back leg so much? That's something that you have to consider in the case of a person who has pain in the front of their knee when it's the back leg. So if you have that issue, those are a couple considerations. Now, it's not always like, oh, you need to stretch, you need to roll out. Sometimes you have to make a mind-body connection of what am I using? How am I performing this movement? And if you're coaching or working with an athlete, these are a couple considerations for anterior knee pain with lunging. Now, if someone has this, I wouldn't always stretch their quads because you're going to stretch the tissue that goes over the front of the knee and that may aggravate it. So you have to think about how is the knee being used, how is it being loaded, and maybe you'll solve the problem in that case. If not, there's other considerations and other reasons why people can have knee pain on the front of the knee during the lunge. So food for thought. That's what I got for you guys for this week on Movement Fix Monday. If you don't already follow the Movement Fix on Facebook, make sure to go to facebook.com/Movement Fix and make sure to follow me on Instagram @the Movement Fix. I'll see you guys next week.